Good evening, and welcome to our regular council meeting of February the 8th, 2021. And I have with me, I'm looking at my gallery view, I have with me Councillor Mike Cohen, Councillor Stephen Erdely, Councillor Dita Burku, Councillor Oren Sabag, Councillor Cindy Benizri, Councillor David Torgman, and I have with me the City Manager, Jonathan Schechter, and I have the City Clerk, Jason Prevost. So those are the people on the screen, as well as other members of staff. You'll see their names on the screen. So we're starting off as we usually do, as is tradition since COVID, with a moment of silence, and then I'll give you an update on the COVID situation. So, ladies and gentlemen, an update on the situation of COVID. Yes, the numbers are going down, which is the good news. There are other things to report. However, as many of you know, at the beginning of the pandemic, the city of Côte Saint-Luc made certain decisions, not based on what was happening in Canada, because we only had a couple of cases. We made decisions based on what was happening in the world. And we continue to watch and hear what's happening in the world. And I'm in communication with Dr. Kaiser and the health department on a regular basis. And we know there are other variants that are present in Canada, in Quebec. They're under control right now. But if we look at what's been happening around the world, we know that we need to continue to wash our hands, wear masks, physically distance, because this new variant, unfortunately, passes on much quicker. So often when we find out somebody is positive with the new variant, it's gone to a third generation, meaning by the time we find out somebody is positive, they've passed it to people who passed it to people. So be very, very careful to follow all the protocols, and we'll do our best. But it's a tough one. So please do your best to follow all protocols. The other things that I wanted to report is recently I sent a letter to Minister Dubé regarding the situation in Maimonides. The government of Quebec decided on their own that Maimonides was, in their opinion, one of the most vulnerable sites in the province of Quebec, and they needed special attention. So both in Quebec City and in Côte Saint-Luc, they chose two residences, and they gave the first vaccine. At the time, they had signed a notification to each person getting the vaccine if they would receive a second dose within the protocol days. And then, of course, we know the story and how it changed. So my letter to the minister was as follows. Basically, I said that we understand there's reasoning and arguments for delaying a second dose. However, there is no data on delaying a second dose, and there was a lot of discussion about what would 42 days be. Now we're past 42 days. The letter I sent was a while back, a couple of weeks ago. Now we're past 42 days. But there is no control group that is being used right now in the province to determine what would be the results of having a second dose, maybe more than 28 days, but not 90 days. And as the province of Quebec chose Maimonides, which is a residence in our city, as an institution that they considered the most vulnerable, my request to the minister, and I asked the question at my weekly meeting with Chantal Rouleau last Monday, is to use Maimonides as a control group to determine if a shorter period would provide better results. So we are still pushing for that. I know we have a shortage of vaccines. I know there's a lot of difficulties in terms of getting vaccines, and it's Quebec is unique, and we want to make sure we're doing the right thing. And we'll get some results at least for Maimonides and learn from that. The other issue is that there will be vaccines being given in Côte Saint-Luc, but the site that has been chosen as of the present date is the Carrie Square, which is not useful for a majority of our residents who live in Côte Saint-Luc Central, meaning closer to the Cavendish Mall or Côte Saint-Luc Shopping Center. and we've been asking for a site and offered even any of the sites within our municipal buildings that have a separate entrance as a site for vaccinating our population, which is the highest percentage of seniors in the province. We have 10,000 people over the age of 65. And as we know, 90% of hospitalizations and deaths come from that group. So we really want to get those people vaccinated. And unfortunately for many, they live alone, the children have left town, and they need help to make sure that we get them vaccinated. So we're doing our best to see if we can get a better location for vaccinations. On another note, I've been in communication with Eric Codwell from the city of Montreal regarding Cavendish, and I know Marvin Rotran has been working on the file, Alan D'Souza. I'm working, of course, with Sue Montgomery and Philip Waugh. And finally, there has been an agreement that they will be sending the route for approval to the BAP, which is the Bureau d'Audience Publique Environnementale, which is the first step of several steps in terms of moving the file forward and getting approval from the provincial government for the Cavendish extension. So it's one small step for Cavendish and hopefully a giant leap for a future extension. So that's the up news on that. And I also wanted to say that, if anybody knows anybody who's turning 100 or they have some special occasion, they should let us know, because we always want to honor them. A good friend of my late father-in-law, Eddie Agadinsky, his good friend Saul Bruck is turning 100 on Thursday. He's active and well, and we wish him well. I'm going to be interviewing him and talking about life. He's a survivor of the Holocaust, like my father-in-law was. And he has, I'm sure, lessons for us all to learn about resilience and enjoying life to the fullest as he continues to work and be active. Yeah, I'll be interviewing him this week and celebrating his life. And my invitation is to anybody who has a special event such as that, like a 100-year birthday, to let us know. Okay, so that being said, we're going to move on to question period. Maître Prévost.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have 4 questions tonight, so we're going to go through the first question period, and towards the end of the agenda, we're going to open the YouTube chat for any questions residents may have pertaining to tonight's agenda. So the first question is from Raoul Fox and Jeanette Ayachi. We moved about a year and a half ago to Côte Saint-Luc. At that time, there were posters about Ms. Perez running for councillor. Then COVID appeared and all stopped. Can you kindly enough let us know if the election will take place at a later date? We look forward to the live video conference of the council meeting on Monday, February 8th.
Thank you. Well, I'm glad you're watching. Yes, due to COVID, that by-election was postponed, and now we're we're 8 months away from the election, and that seat will be filled in 8 months during the general election, God willing, that we have that election. Let us all be well. In the meantime, in the interim, I have been taking on the role. First, it was Mike Cohn and Councillor Torchman that were sharing the duty, and then I took it over. And now anybody who wants to reach me can reach me directly at mbrownstein@cotesaintluc.org. I'll be happy to take any calls also at 514-485-6935. If you leave me a message, I'll call you back. Yes, feel free. The best way to reach me, though, fast is mbrownstein@cotesaintluc.org, and I answer very quickly all emails. So next question, please.
The next question is from Karina Gronendahl. We live on the border of Côte Saint-Luc and Montreal West, and I would like to commend the city of Côte Saint-Luc for all they have done during this pandemic to support the population. We have been very impressed with the library service, especially. It has been wonderful to be able to continue getting books for our young boys, and picking them up have always been a painless experience. We have also loved the colorful lights installed along Cavendish and Westminster. It is such a whimsical way to bring some light into these dark winter days. We were so excited to try out the new and improved toboggan run and headed over in the early afternoon of Sunday, January 31st. The run is wonderful. The dedicated lanes, softer slope, and longer are great improvements. We were deeply disappointed, however, to see that the vast majority of people, including the city public works employees, were not wearing masks. It is impossible to maintain a 2-meter distance while climbing the stairs or waiting at the top. Therefore, we were forced to leave after just a few runs as it just did not feel safe. In light of the current situation in Montreal, we were quite frankly shocked that so few people were abiding by the rules. While I realize that this is not the city's fault, perhaps having public security patrolling during peak times to remind people of and enforce the rules would be a good idea.
Well, thank you for your question. Definitely, we want people to follow all health rules, especially when they're using any of our facilities, such as the outdoor toboggan run. And Public Works, who does have attendance there, will be monitoring the situation more closely. I do want to clarify the rules with respect to wearing of masks. Masks are recommended outdoors when physically distancing is not possible. But thankfully, the information that we've received throughout this pandemic is that the virus has passed through particles and it's much less likely to happen outdoors. So if you look at what happens at ski hills, for example, there can be long lines, and in those lines, people are supposed to be wearing their masks and then maintaining the 2-meter distance where possible. It's not possible in line when they're going to get onto the chairlift, for example. But once they're off the chairlift and they're skiing down the hill, they're not required to wear a mask. So the rules, it's interesting to try to see what's really dangerous. Of course, we want people, if they can physically distance, to wear their mask. They should be following the rules. We put up many signs, and we will have staff trying to enforce those signs. If a public worker, for example, is 2 meters away from all people, he would not be required under the law or the recommendations to wear a mask. Of course, it looks good, and if he's getting close to people, he's less than the 2 meters, he should be wearing a mask. And we will ensure that our staff are following those rules. Okay. Next question, please.
Yep, the next question is from Norman Sabin. Every Saturday midday, I drive through the intersection of Haywood and Kellert. Depending on when I reach the intersection, I often have to wait for the automatic 20-second 4-way reds for pedestrian crossing, which only operates Saturday, Shabbat. The problem is 9 times out of 10, there are no pedestrians crossing, and 5, 10, or even 15 cars wait for nothing and pollute the air. Mr. Sabin also explains that pedestrians facing a red light often cross the street when they are not supposed to, and thus the 4-way red is not needed.
Okay. This would be another issue that could be sent back for additional study by our traffic department, traffic committee. But in general, this has been studied at length, and it's done the way it is done to help those who follow the rules. We know that many people don't follow traffic signals, but if you're a child, for example, a 12-year-old, and you're walking on your own, and you're going to wait for that pedestrian walkway, and you're only going to walk then we're helping that one kid cross the street safely. So I know it's not perfect. I know it can be inconvenient, but it's done for a purpose, and it's done to protect those who are smart enough to follow the rules and take advantage of something that exists for their safety. But of course, we'll take another look at it. But as I say, this particular corner has been studied on many occasions.
Okay, the final question is from Marissa Seidel-Dabrowski. Now that the positive numbers of cases are thankfully starting to decrease, and assuming they continue to do so, can you please provide a timeline for which the city plans to safely reopen its services to the community? Obviously, we can't expect that it's done in such a manner as to protect the employees as well as the citizens, but clearly we can't stay shuttered forever. Can we expect that as spring rolls around that we will be able to enjoy the parks and other such services? Will the pool and splash parks be open this summer? Again, assuming there is permission from the province.
I'm hopeful that we can do everything we did last year. It was a wonderful summer. Case numbers went down, and we were able to open all our services, and our outdoor facilities particularly were well used. The fear, of course, is the variants. I hope that our worst nightmares do not come to fruition, but we will be following the rules as allowed by the health authorities of the province and opening what is allowed in the safest way possible.
And that completes the first question period.
Thank you. Okay, so that's that. And now we move on to the agenda, approval of the minutes. Councillor Sabag.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That the minutes of the regular meeting of January 11th, the special meeting of January 19th, and the special meeting of January 21st, 2021 are hereby approved and submitted.
Moved by Councillor Sabag, seconded by Councillor Delissery. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. And we move on to business arising from the minutes. Okay, the departmental reports. Councillor Cohen.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I so move that the monthly departmental reports, legal services, financial and information technology services, police department, Elder and Côte Saint-Luc Public Library, public affairs and communications, urban development, and public works be adopted.
Moved by Councillor Cohen, seconded by Councillor Torgman. Any discussion? Councillor Torgman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, like always, there's a tremendous amount available at the library. There's a creative writing club. There's going to be activities for spring breaks for the kids that are going to be off of school. And every week there's quarantine Thursdays that's available. A lot of programming is available online. The book drop-off is getting a tremendous amount of people visiting, and it's a great success. There's going to be the annual report from the library that'll be published shortly. That'll detail everything that's happened in the past year with COVID, and it's actually quite impressive. And I urge you to check it out on the Côte Saint-Luc website. There's a tremendous amount that has been done and that is being done by the library. A lot is virtual, but accessible to all residents. So check it out. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Torgman. Councillor Erdely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll start on the finance side. I wanted to clarify a point. I know this was something a few residents reached out to me. So originally when the budget was adopted in December, we had certain dates, tax dates. Those dates were based on the dates in which Côte Saint-Luc has to pay what's called our Côte part, or our allocation to the agglomeration. So those were based on the numbers we had from them in December. Early January, the agglomeration changed their dates, which allowed us to change the dates that residents' taxes are due. So residents should have received their tax bills by now. It is the correct date on the tax bill. So just to clarify, there was this flyer that was printed. So this was actually printed before the tax bills were. At the time, it had the previous dates, but the tax bill has the updated dates. This one, the budget flyer as well, which residents received, has the new date. So just to clarify for everyone watching, so the dates for the first installment, the date for the first installment is May 27th, and the date for the second installment is August 25th. So residents, please take note of that, and you can, as always, either do it online through your bank directly. You could send the checks post-dated, and the city will cash them on those dates. So hopefully that clarifies things, and I know that it'll be updated on the city website as well. So if anyone has any questions about that, just definitely reach out to either call the city or you can email one of us. The other item I want to talk a bit about is with regard to waste. So now 2020 was an anomalous year, so it's not necessarily one we can study and say for sure is accurate. However, on a positive note, when we look at the tonnages of garbage, of waste that goes to landfill, we had the lowest number yet, the lowest number ever. So just to give some background, back in 2007, when we had just started the pilot project for organic waste collection, before expanding it citywide, the city produced 11,746 tons, so almost 12,000 tons. In 2020, we ended up with 6,620 tons. So basically a reduction of about 5,000 tons. So picture that, 5,000 less tons going to landfill that would sit there most likely for hundreds and hundreds of years. Of course, long enough to outlive your children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren and so on for 500 years worth. So what that represents, if we compare it just to the previous year, it's a 19% reduction. And if we compare it to 2007, it represents a 44% reduction. So that is a huge amount of waste that is being diverted either to recycling, to organic waste, or to bulky waste. We'll be talking a bit later about the black bins, and you'll be getting more information about it in the mail in the upcoming weeks. But I hope residents will continue to divert as much as possible. Hopefully 2021 things will go back to normal in some ways, but people will still continue to divert more waste and throw less out in the garbage. So that's all I have to report for now. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely. Anyone else? Councillor Kajowski, and then Councillor Ben-Israel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick comment, Stephen, on the reduction in waste. That's an unbelievable amount of tonnage. Like that's the equivalent of ballpark 10 to 15 single family houses worth of garbage that we reduced our waste in. Just a quick fun Google search. Okay, so on the Parks and Recreation portfolio, just a very quick comment because several residents reached out to me regarding summer camp. So for now, just so everyone knows, we are planning on operating summer camp as normal. We don't know whether we'll need to scale back the number of children registration numbers, I should say. But for now, just so everyone out there knows, we're planning on running summer camp. Instead of registration taking place in November, December, we're going to be doing the early bird just before regular registration coming up end of March or April. So just for everyone's information, hopefully we're back to a relative state of normal by then. But I have had several people reach out to me, so I wanted to provide that information. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Kajowski. Councillor Ben-Israel.
Merci, Monsieur le maire. J'aimerais juste, je pense qu'on l'a déjà, bon, ça a été mentionné dans la période des questions, on a parlé du toboggan, la descente de luge. J'aimerais vraiment juste remercier l'initiative et vraiment toute l'équipe des travaux publics. Cette initiative, je pense que c'est un ajout dans notre ville. C'est une activité de plus qui est offerte à nos résidents et à nos familles, surtout durant cette période de Covid. Je sais qu'on avait déjà mentionné aussi l'initiative le patinage. Le patinage à glace qu'on a dans les différents parcs. On a à peu près 7 endroits à travers la ville. Alors, je pense que c'est vraiment, à part tout le travail qui est fait en termes surtout avec les tempêtes qu'on a eues dernièrement, par le déblayage, je pense qu'on a aussi les travaux publics ont permis à la ville d'avoir comme ça des espaces où nos familles, nos jeunes peuvent se retrouver. Et vraiment, je salue l'initiative, vraiment toute l'équipe pour le travail qui a été fait. Voilà, c'est ce que je voulais juste mentionner. Merci.
Merci. Anyone else? Okay, Councillor Sabag.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to give an update on my portfolio, public safety. Obviously, things are buzzing. At public safety, we got a new vehicle. I don't know if you guys saw for our EMS crew. Nice SUV. So I hope you guys have a chance to see it around, or maybe not have a chance, I should say, to see it around. We're going to be announcing today the hiring of a new division chief. We're very, 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 very lucky to have him on board. Things are going to be, this is probably the most significant hire public safety has had in a long time. So I'm very, very excited to pass that motion today and tell you all about it. EMS crew, public safety crew, always there trying to respond during this time. So again, keeping this city as safe as possible. I do get some text messages for people that are concerned in their buildings, and I want to remind everybody that we do the best we can as a municipality, but there are instances where there's a very clear definition between what a municipal government can do on private property. So we do help as much as we can, and reach out to us if you have any questions. But a lot of the times we are going to support, giving you as much information as we can. So keep those emails coming, and if you have any questions, you can always email me or call me on my cell phone.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Anyone else? Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Great. Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously, and we move on to the Eleanor London Côte Saint-Luc Public Library. Councillor Torgman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just want to make sure, sorry, I'm not on mute. Que le Conseil autorise par les présents la Ville à présenter une demande d'aide financière au ministère de la Culture et des Communications dans le cadre du programme Aide aux projets pour les projets de développement des collections des bibliothèques publiques autonomes pour l'année budgétaire 2021-2022. Que Janine West, directrice de la bibliothèque, ou, en son absence, Lisa Milner, gestionnaire d'administration et des services de soutien de la bibliothèque, soit et est par les présentes autorisée à signer tout document ayant traité à cette demande, en particulier l'entente qui doit être signée avec le ministère de la Culture et des Communications. Que la municipalité s'engage à autofinancer le montant total des dépenses prévues pour l'acquisition des documents en 2021, incluant la part correspondante à la subvention qui sera allouée par le ministère. Que les présentes résolutions soient approuvées pour action immédiate.
OK, proposé par le conseiller Torgman, appuyé par le conseiller Erdely. Est-ce qu'il y a des discussions?
So to explain that in English is it's a loan that it's a grant that the Quebec government is giving public libraries. They give it over a 3-year period. It ranges from $60,000 to $80,000 over the 3-year period, and we need to pass a resolution so that we have the authorization to sign the documentation.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Mike, you're in favor. You got to go. Okay, so everyone's in favor. Carried unanimously. And now we move on to the next one, which is financial services. Councillor Erdely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that Côte Saint-Luc City Council approves the attached list of disbursements for the period of January 1st, 2021 to January 31st, 2021 for a total amount of $4,591,330.39 in Canadian funds, and that Treasurer Certificate number 21-0044 dated February 1st, 2021 has been issued by the City Treasurer, attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Moved by Councillor Erdely, seconded by Councillor Cohen. Any discussion?
So just to share a few highlights, first I should mention this month is slightly more than the average. So some of the larger items are payments for snow removal, for some of the work on the City Hall building envelope, which is replacing the bricks. We also have for the LED street lights, and to date we've done approximately 526 lights, new LED street lights in the city. And we also have in here a significant holdback that is being paid off for the arena project. The way it works, when there's a major project, we pay it out in installments just to make sure that all the work is done properly. So this is a payment for that. So those are some of the key highlights this month.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. We move to a tabling from our treasurer, Angelo Marino.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So a provincial regulation that came into effect on January 1st, 2017 set the rules for council members that request reimbursement for research and support expenses. And the treasurer is supposed to deposit the report by March 31st for the previous fiscal year. So you find in your package the report for the year 2020, where you'll see that we did not reimburse any council members any research and support expenses for that year.
Thank you, Mr. Marino. Thank you. All right, so now we move on to 6C. Counselor, this is a resolution authorized. Counselor Erdely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that Côte Saint-Luc City Council hereby authorizes the membership renewal with the Union des Municipalités du Québec, UMQ, including the fee for Carrefour du Capital Humain for the period covering January 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2021, in the amount of $29,155.90 plus applicable taxes, and that Treasurer Certificate number 21-0047 dated February 2nd, 2021 has been issued by the city treasurer attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Moved by Councilor Erdely, seconded by Councilor Gajowski. Any discussion?
So just to share briefly, so the UMQ is an organization we've been a member of for many years, and this amount that we pay, $29,000, is definitely worth the money. We are able to take part in many different group tenders by being part of the UMQ. We also have access to their legal resources, so I would say it's definitely money well spent.
Thank you. So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Okay, anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. We move to item 6D. Councilor Erdely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council hereby awards a contract to ITI Inc. for Microsoft 365 licenses and other Microsoft components related to Microsoft 365 for an amount of $114,000 plus applicable taxes for a 3-year term, that the described expenses shall be financed in whole from the city's operating budget, that Treasurer Certificate number 21-0048 dated February 3rd, 2021 has been issued by the city treasurer attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses, and that the city's general counsel be and is hereby authorized to sign the contract and all other related documents.
Okay, moved by Councilor Erdely, seconded by Councilor Gajowski. Any discussion?
So if I may share, so what the city did in 2020 was we did a transition from a Google or G Suite let's say product or platform to a Microsoft 365 platform. We did it for a few reasons, but the main one was that there was significant savings. So in the year 2020, we saved $30,614, and basically in 2021 and moving forward, we'll be saving approximately or just under $25,000 per year. So again, it's a good way to save some money. And I have to admit, it's taken me a bit of time to get used to the Microsoft product, but to get used to it again, I should say, but I'm happy with what we're seeing. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. And now we move to Human Resources, 7A, Councilor Gajowski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council ratifies the hiring of the white-collar auxiliary employees whose names are listed on the document entitled Auxiliary Employees White Collars Hiring, dated January 26, 2021, and that said employees' terms of employment will be as per the conditions of the collective agreement. That Treasurer Certificate number 21-0040 dated January 26, 2021 has been issued by the City Treasurer attesting to the availability of funds to cover the above described expenses.
Moved by Councilor Gajowski, seconded by Councilor Torchman. Any discussion?
So just to briefly mention, this is for the hiring of 3 skate attendants and skate monitors for both the indoor and outdoor skating rinks at Trudeau Park, so for Samuel Moskowitz Arena, and for the annex, which is open, and Samuel Moskowitz, hopefully open once again very soon.
Thank you, Councilor Gajowski. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. We move to 7B. Councilor Gajowski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council ratifies the hiring of Nico Edibaje, and I apologize if I am mispronouncing your name, Nico, as an on-call reception, admission, and shop attendant, white-collar auxiliary position, effective December 21st, 2020. That Treasurer Certificate number 21-0036 dated January 13th, 2021 has been issued by the City Treasurer attesting to the availability of funds to cover the above described expenses.
Moved by Councillor Kajewski, seconded by Councillor Sabag. Any discussion?
Self-explanatory. Nico is going to be reception, admission, and shop attendant at the Samuel Moscovich Arena again once it reopens, hopefully soon.
Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. We move to 7C. Councillor Burku.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So it is my pleasure to resolve that the Côte Saint-Luc Council ratifies the hiring of Melanie Rothpan as an urban planning coordinator, professional position in the Urban Development Department effective February 1st, 2021, that the Treasurer's Certificate number 21-0041 dated January 26th, 2021 has been issued by the City Treasurer attesting to the availability of funds to cover the above described expenses.
Moved by Councillor Burku, seconded by Councillor Kajewski. Any discussion?
Happily.
Anything to
Yeah,
say?
so Councillor Kujawski said it for all of us. We're very, very happy that Melanie Rothpan has joined our urban development team. And this is further to the retirement of Christian Chiasson, who dedicated a good part of his professional career to Côte Saint-Luc and did a great job. Now Melanie is an architect and a resident of Côte Saint-Luc, and she will definitely be able to contribute a lot to the urban development department, as we have a lot of projects on the table. And so we're very pleased that Melanie has decided to join the team. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Burku. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Great. Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. And now we move on to item 7D. Councillor Benizri.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council ratifies the hiring of Hugo Mercier as a mechanic, auxiliary blue-collar position effective December 17, 2020. That Treasurer's Certificate number 21-0037 dated January 13, 2021 has been issued by the Treasurer attesting to the availability of funds to cover the above described expenses.
Moved by Councillor Benizri, seconded by Councillor Sabag. Any discussion? Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor? I guess Councillor Torchman had to leave for a second. Anyone opposed? So it's carried with those present. Okay, note Councillor Torchman had to leave the room for a moment. Now we're going to move on to item E. Councillor Kajewski.
I am muted. Yes, I am. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council ratifies the hiring of Ian Archambault and Donna Lee Morrison as aquatics coordinator, each for a fixed term management contract effective from January 5th, 2021 to January 5th, 2022. That Treasurer Certificate number 21-0038 dated January 15th, 2021 has been issued by the City Treasurer attesting to the availability of funds to cover the above described expenses.
Moved by Councillor Kajewski, seconded by Councillor Burku. Any discussion?
Again, self-explanatory, the hiring of two aquatics coordinators for our swim team, who bring an absolute ocean of experience, both of them. So they'll keep our swim team top-notch and provincial class, at least. So welcome.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Carried unanimously with Councillor Torchman out of the room. Now we move on to item F. Councillor Sabag.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That the City of Côte Saint-Luc ratifies the hiring of Eddie Afram as the Division Chief of Emergency Medical Services and Dispatch. This is a management contract position for a fixed-term contract effective from January 11th, 2021 to January 11th, 2022, that the Treasurer Certificate number 21-0034 dated January 13, 2021 has been issued by the City Treasurer attesting to the availability of funds to cover the above described expenses.
Moved by Councillor Sabag, seconded by Councillor Gajowski, any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like I said at the opening remarks, this is probably the most significant hiring that EMS has had in a public safety has had in a long time. The reason is that Eddie was actually the right-hand person of the head of Urgence Santé. And so he comes with a wealth of information and experience. He, I've tried over the past few years to say that we are going to modernize certain aspects of public safety, and that is one way for us to ensure that we can go into hopefully a second term and modernize that department in ways that can be expeditiously done. So very, very happy about this hiring. Very happy to see Eddie on board. The camaraderie between the three heads of that department is exceptional, and I wish him the very best.
Thank you. So that was moved by Councillor Sabag and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. Excellent. Now we move on to item G, Councillor Burku. 7G. Hiring of draftsman.
Yeah, very pleased for this one as well. Just a minute, let me just find it. So, hang on. So be it resolved that City Côte Saint-Luc Council ratifies the hiring of Voltaire Thomas as a draftsman white collar permanent position effective December 11th, 2020, that the Treasurer's Certificate number 21-0035 dated January 13th, 2021 has been issued by the City Treasurer attesting to the availability of funds to cover the above described expenses.
Thank you, Councillor Burku, seconded by Councillor Gajowski. Any discussion?
Yeah, so once again, this is someone who is going to replace a long-standing employee, Serge Rioux, who was a draftsman and also was, an expert in geomatics. He has a lot of experience in that field. We hope that Voltaire is going to benefit from his training over the next few weeks. And we're very happy that we've hired someone who has all the capabilities that and requirements that we need for this important position.
Thank you, Councillor Burku. So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. And now we move on to a change in title. Councillor Erdely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that Côte Saint-Luc City Council approves the title change of permanent management employee Angelo Marino from Director of Finance and City Treasurer to Treasurer and Director of Financial and Information Technology Services, effective January 11th, 2021.
Moved by Councillor Erdely, seconded by Councillor Cohen, I believe. There you go. Any discussion?
So just to mention briefly, so Angelo Marino has been our City Treasurer and Director of Finance for many years. So this is just a slight reorganization within the city that Angelo will now be taking on the Information Technology Department as well under his auspices.
Thank you, Treasurer Marino. And it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. And now we go to the next title change. Councillor Cohen.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I so move that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council approves the title change of permanent management employee Daryl Levine from Director, Public Affairs, Communications and Information Technology to Director, Public Affairs and Communications, effective January 11th, 2021.
Thank you, Councillor Cohen, seconded by Councillor Erdely. Any discussion?
It says just along the lines of what Councillor Erdely explained, just a reorganization of departments.
Right, and I just like to say both of Director Marino and Director Levine are excellent members of our team who are superb in the roles that they play. And I know the communications department has evolved and is exceptionally busy with all types of projects. And they're both doing a wonderful job. And I thank Director Marino for taking on IT along with all of his wonderful work, keeping our books good and ensuring that we are financially stable. So thank you for all you both do, and we're very, very grateful.
I'd like to add, Mr. Mayor, also that during the pandemic, Director Levine, while he's no longer got the official title of technology, if it were not for him, we owe him a debt of gratitude for playing such a central role in ensuring that we've been able to use all of our technology to communicate so beautifully with our citizens. And I continually get thanks and praise. I had 3 emails this afternoon from people who have been able to connect through your message, Mr. Mayor, and others, all coordinated by Mr. Levine. So I thank Daryl for his continual hard work on these dossiers.
Thank you. So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Carried unanimously. I don't know if we voted that twice. Okay, so now we're going to move on to legal services tabling. Maître Schechter.
Correct. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to be tabling a series of certificates regarding loan bylaw results. The way I will do this to be very efficient is to list the loan bylaws and then list the results, which are identical, as they were all done simultaneously. So first of all, we have bylaw 2531, repealing bylaw 2443, authorizing a loan of $1,365,000 for renovating and upgrading the pump station located on Côte Saint-Luc Road. That one is repealing. The second one is bylaw 2562, authorizing a loan of $179,000, including professional fees for the purchase and installation of various traffic lights and LED streetlights at various locations in the territory of Côte Saint-Luc. Third one, bylaw 2563, authorizing a loan of $210,000 for the purchase and planting of various trees on the territory of the city of Côte Saint-Luc. The next one is bylaw 2564, authorizing a loan of $358,000, including professional fees for facility upgrades for various parks within the territory of the city of Côte Saint-Luc. The next one, bylaw 2565, authorizing a loan of $158,000 for the replacement of the carpet at the Eleanor London Public Library situated at 5851 Cavendish Boulevard. The next one, bylaw 2566, authorizing a loan of $263,000, including professional fees for the renovation of the building envelope at the Samuel Moscovich Arena and Singerman Park Chalet. The next, bylaw 2567, authorizing a loan of $105,000, including professional fees for the renovation of the building envelope at the Public Works building situated at 7001 Pat Mackle Road. The next one, bylaw 2568, authorizing a loan of $1,050,000 for renovations to the Public Works yard situated at 7001 Mackle Road. The next one, bylaw 2569, authorizing a loan of $300,000, including professional fees for the roof of the Aquatic and Community Center building situated at 5794 Parkhaven Avenue. The next one, bylaw 2570, authorizing a loan of $441,000 for the purchase of vehicles and equipment. And lastly, bylaw 2571, authorizing a loan of $326,000 for the purchase of heavy vehicles and heavy vehicle equipment. The number of persons qualified to vote for each one was 22,945. The number of signatures of persons qualified to vote required to make the holding of a referendum poll obligatory was 2,305. The number of persons qualified to vote who registered in each of the loan bylaws I mentioned was 0. Therefore, each of the loan bylaws I just mentioned were each deemed approved by the persons qualified to vote. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Maître Schechter, for all those tablings. And now we move on to item K, Councillor Burku. No, wait, L. Resolution of endorsement of Declaration of Commitment to Democracy and Respect.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is a resolution that's come to us through the UMQ. Not going to read it all but I'm just going to give basically the gist of it, which came to us in French from the Union des municipalités du Québec. And then I think I'll read also the conclusions in English. So this, il s'agit d'une résolution d'adhésion à la déclaration d'engagement sur la démocratie et le respect, attendu que la polarisation de l'opinion publique dans les médias traditionnels et particulièrement dans les médias sociaux entraîne une multiplication de déclarations agressives et de gestes d'intimidation à l'égard des élus et élus municipaux, attendu que ce phénomène a pris de l'ampleur depuis le début de la crise de la COVID-19 en 2020, attendu que l'intimidation, la menace et la violence verbale n'ont pas leur place dans une démocratie et ne favorisent en rien la confiance ainsi que la reconnaissance qu'a la population envers ces institutions démocratiques, attendu que le respect est un élément fondamental d'une société démocratique qui exige à son tour la reconnaissance fondamentale de grandes libertés, dont notamment la liberté d'expression, attendu qu'une démocratie respectueuse honore la fonction d'élus et élus et consolide la qualité et l'autorité des institutions, attendu que l'Union des municipalités du Québec a lancé une campagne nationale sur la démocratie et le respect, et attendu que les membres du conseil d'administration de l'UMQ ont adopté le 4 décembre la déclaration d'engagement envers la démocratie. Je vais lire maintenant juste les 2 derniers paragraphes de cette déclaration parce qu'elle est longue. Dans moins d'1 an se tiendront les élections municipales dans toutes les municipalités du Québec. D'ici là, il nous faut prendre soin de notre démocratie. Il nous faut renouer avec un débat respectueux des personnes et des institutions pour prendre ensemble les meilleures décisions. Rappelons-nous que les élus et les titulaires de charges publiques s'engagent pour le mieux-être de leur population, favorisant l'engagement politique. Ne le décourageons pas. Comme élus municipaux et les élus municipaux, nous sommes fiers de servir nos concitoyennes et concitoyens. C'est pourquoi nous appelons au débat démocratique dans le respect. Nous disons la démocratie dans le respect, par respect pour la démocratie. Et nous invitons les élus et les élus de toutes les municipalités du Québec à joindre le mouvement. Il est proposé et résolu que le conseil municipal de Côte Saint-Luc adhère à la déclaration d'engagement ayant pour thème la démocratie dans le respect, par respect pour la démocratie, et que le conseil a accompagné les élus et élus municipaux, ainsi que toutes les sphères de la gouvernance municipale pour valoriser la démocratie municipale et consolider la confiance envers les institutions démocratiques, et qu'une copie de cette résolution soit transmise à l'UMQ du Québec. C'est ça. If I just could read the last paragraph in English, just so that it's very clear what all this is about. As elected officials, we are proud to serve our fellow citizens. That is why we're calling for a respectful democratic debate, because democracy with respect, out of respect for democracy. That's the slogan. And we invite elected officials in all Quebec municipalities to join us in this movement. That was the UMQ's request. And we are basically tonight endorsing their declaration to respect democracy out of respect for democracy. There you go.
Thank you, Councillor Burku. Okay, so moved by Councillor Burku, seconded by Councillor Cohen. Any discussion? Councillor Torgman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like this declaration to also be translated in English so that anyone who wants to read it,
It is.
have access to it. Okay.
It's translated.
Okay, perfect. So just to make it available for the residents, you know, at the end of the day, disagreement is okay, and it's fundamental to democracy, but just that we should engage in respectful dialogue and always feel that our voices are heard. That's ultimately what the message that I take away from this. We can disagree, but we need to speak in a civil manner and listen to each other. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, so it has been moved and seconded. All in favor? Carried unanimously. All right, so now we move on to item number 9. Councillor Kajowski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that bylaw 2573, entitled Bylaw 2573, creating the fee schedule for Parks and Recreation programs for the spring and summer of 2021, be and is hereby adopted.
Moved by Councillor Kajowski, seconded by Councillor Berku. Any discussion?
I know I sound like a broken record, but again, this is the fee schedule for tariffs, the fees that are going to be charged for all our Parks and Recreation activities that we, fingers crossed, will be running fairly normally this coming spring and summer.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Carried unanimously, and Councillor Berku was chatting with the mic.
I want to ask a question. I want to know, maybe Councillor Kujawski knows, when do you think we will be able to announce that our parks, camps, programs will be open or not? Because we're adopting fees, but I don't know when.
I think that's more of a question for staff.
Okay, but
I can answer briefly. I mentioned it earlier. I don't think we can make a final decision yet, but we are proceeding as if we're going to have operational programs, at least in the summer. Spring, I think, is a little more tentative, but we're planning as if we're going to be running summer camps and all the other activities. So, and it's going to be a moving target as we go.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And now we move on to item number 10, Public Affairs and Communications. Councillor Cohen.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I so move that the City Council approves the estimated associate expenses based on the spending patterns of the past year. The council approves and ratifies the associated expense in the amount of $30,000 plus applicable taxes. That treasury certificate number TC 210046, dated February 2nd, 2021, has been issued by the treasurer, attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses. This is for Canada Post bulk mail distribution, mail pickup service, and other related services.
Thank you, Councillor Cohen, seconded by Councillor Erdely. You already explained it, so all in favor? Everyone in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. We move on to item number 11, Public Works. Councillor Benizri, 11A.
Merci, Monsieur le maire. Est résolu que le conseil municipal de la ville de Côte Saint-Luc, par la présente, ratifie l'achat de carburant pour sa flotte de véhicules pendant l'année 2020, conformément au regroupement d'achat organisé par la ville de Montréal et la STM comme suit. Essence sans plomb d'Énergie Valero au montant total de 115 869 $, plus les taxes applicables. Diesel clair de lait pétrole Parkland au montant total de 136 695 $, plus les taxes applicables.
Okay, proposé par le conseiller Benizri, appuyé par le conseiller Erdely. Est-ce qu'il y a des discussions?
Yes, I think it should be noted that there was a decrease in the expense. And this is in part due to COVID and reduced activities throughout the city. But nonetheless, there was a significant decrease of 17 and 20% in the unleaded fuel and in the diesel fuel. So that's a little bit of a saving that we can attribute to COVID.
Okay. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. And now we move on to item 11B. Councillor Erdely, black bins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm excited about this one. Be it resolved that Côte Saint-Luc City Council hereby awards a contract for the supply and delivery of rolling bins for the collection of residual waste pursuant to the terms of tender number C-24-20 for a maximum of $264,424 plus applicable taxes. That treasurer certificate number TC 21-0042 was issued by the city treasurer to attest to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Moved by Councillor Erdely, seconded by Councillor Benizri. Any discussion?
So just to give some background, so as I mentioned earlier in the evening, since we started the organic waste collection and expanded recycling with the larger rolling bins, we managed to reduce waste going to landfill by about 44%, or over 5,000 tons, 5,000 metric tons. And just to kind of give some rough picture, an average garbage truck can hold about 10, just over 10 metric tons. So we're talking about the equivalent of 500 less garbage trucks full of garbage to go into landfill per year. So it's quite a significant amount. Now, the hope is by introducing these black bins and encouraging, of course, residents to continue to divert more of their waste to blue bins and brown bins, that, of course, will manage to reduce even further the amount of waste that's going to landfill. So what'll happen is in the next few weeks, residents will get a flyer with more details. So it'll explain what to do. There'll be the default size and a second size. So residents will have an option. If they choose the default size, there's nothing for them to do. If they want the second size, the other size, then they'll have to inform the city, and it'll be a simple process. Also, if residents already have an existing bin, so if you already have a black bin, there'll be a mechanism for you to ensure it's a conforming bin. So just to clarify, within bins, there's different types, and it has to do with the lip on it to make sure that it's compatible with the trucks that the city is using or the trucks that our contractors using. So someone from Public Works will check to make sure it's conforming. If it is, they'll put a sticker on, and anyone who has a bin that they're using and want to continue use will have that option again if it is conforming, and you will get a check for the $50 back in your taxes. So in other words, you won't have to pay that $50 amount. Just also to mention for duplexes, each duplex will get 2 bins. So let's say one for the upper and one for the lower. So they'll have 2 bins. And again, you'll have the option to choose which size. And I think that's it. It's like I said, it's an exciting time. The hope is that residents will continue to divert. And of course, if anyone has any questions, they can always reach out to the city. And we're happy to help and give more tips. And we will continue to do that over the next few months. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely. So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
I would like to say something.
More discussion. Go ahead, Councillor Burgu.
Okay, so I'm pleased to support this initiative. We are choosing to go with 2 types of bins, either 120 liters or 240. 240 for those who have brown bins. That's the standard size of a brown bin, 240 liters, which is okay in the fall when we fill it up with leaves, but usually, you know, if you only have 3 or 4 bags, you know that they're just, you know, the bin is basically empty most of the time. But we need it in the fall because we fill them up with all our green waste. But when it comes to garbage, and I want to say this, I want to take this opportunity because Stephen and I, Councillor Erdely and I, were at the forefront of the initiative that happened in 2008, I believe. It's more than 10 years ago that we started the brown bin composting program. We were the first on the island. Côte Saint-Luc was the first. And we promoted brown bin composting on the island of in the city of Côte Saint-Luc. And since then, I can say with full confidence that if a family like my own, and I had kids at the time who were some were still at home, but I know that if you are diligent about recycling, composting, there should be very little waste. There should be very little garbage left. So I, for one, I'm going to go with the 120. Absolutely. I'm going to go with the smaller bin because on a weekly basis, I never have more than 1 or 2 bags of garbage, so to speak, things that I can't put in my recycling. And for whatever reason, I couldn't put the container into the compost. So it's very limited. And that's where we should be going. Everyone should be making their effort to reduce garbage and increase composting because it's not only beneficial for the environment, but it also gives us a rebate and gives us the added advantage, an economic advantage that we get back rebates from the government for all the amount of waste that we redirect towards recycling and towards composting. So I encourage residents to think about it, and when they get that option, to go for the smaller bins and to try and reduce their footprint and not create more and more garbage, but to reduce their garbage. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry if I just maybe to add 1 or 2 points. So as Councilor Burku mentioned, so there'll be 2 sizes, the 120 liter and the 240 liter. So for most families, the 120 liters should be sufficient, but definitely for larger families, they have the option of the 240 liter bin. And yeah, just to clarify in terms of percentages, the estimates are that about 80% of waste is either recyclable or compostable, about 40% recyclable, 40% compostable, and really 20% or even less is actually garbage. It actually would go into the black bin. So certainly the black bin should be the one that's the least used of the 3 bins. We know it's going to take it takes time for residents to continue to get used to it, but the more practice, and of course we hope, of course, children and grandchildren will continue to help their families as well and encourage them, and we as a city will do everything we can as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Torgman.
I just want to reiterate that point. I remember implementing the composting for Côte Saint-Luc way back when I was the director. It all came down to education and incentivizing of the residents, and I think the city's going to have a big part to do, making sure that residents understand all of the elements, what goes where. But the incentives have to be there, and I agree with Councillor Burku's point is if the residents know that ultimately there's going to be a cost savings, hopefully they'll participate. The environment is obviously a critical element, and I think that education to the kids is going to be a key component. So looking forward to a good implementation.
Yes, I remember well in 2008 when I was the portfolio council for Public Works, we went with Oriana and you guys to Quebec City, and we made our presentation with our brown bins and blue bag. I'm looking at a picture right now. Good memories, 2008. So we're moving forward. Moving forward. Yeah, here we go. I'll just show you it for a real quick second. The good old days.
There you go.
That's it. Okay, and
That was very fast, Mr. Mayor. That was very fast.
fast. I gotta show it to you one more time.
No chance to click and then take a snapshot.
Oh my God.
There you go. Wow.
Look
Yep.
how young those 2 gentlemen next to Brownstein look.
Haven't changed it yet?
yeah.
I think so. Anyway,
It's a great pick.
the way it was.
Stephen, Councilor Early's still wearing his bar mitzvah suit in that picture.
It was a snowy day. I remember that. I remember it well.
Yeah.
Taking the train from Montreal to Quebec City. Yeah.
Any picture you need, I have it all filed by date, by month, by year, and by name.
So we were first, and I really want to continue, moving forward to be ecologically responsible. So let's, I'm okay.
Super.
Yeah.
Okay, so that I believe was moved and seconded and voted on, or not? Because you
Not voted yet.
didn't
No.
vote. All in favor. All in favor. Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. And now we move on to public safety, item 12A, Councillor Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm very pleased to move this resolution. Bylaw 2470-1 entitled Bylaw 2470-1, amending Bylaw 2470 entitled Bylaw to Regulate Nuisance in order to prohibit the use of electric mopeds in parks and to prohibit circulation in a manner that compromises the safety of other park users, be and is hereby adopted. And I will give an explanation, a few more words after it's adopted, Mr. Mayor, or after someone seconds it.
Moved by Councillor Cohen, seconded by Councillor Sabag. Any discussion? Go ahead, Councillor Cohen.
Yes, first of all, I want to thank Maitre Schechter, Philip Chateauvert, Public Safety Director, for the enormous amount of work they put into this. This came to me as a complaint from residents in the summer who were at Rembrandt Park, and there were people recklessly driving their mopeds through the park. It was very dangerous. And Maitre Schechter and Mr. Chateauvert spent a lot of time drafting this bylaw, which is much more detailed than what you see here. Basically, just to let you know, the first recommendation is to include the scooter-style electric bicycles in the list of vehicles that are prohibited, primarily because of the danger related to the considerable speed they can reach. It's 30+ kilometers an hour. There's other motivation for such a recommendation. There could be all kinds of accidents that could occur, and the speed and weight of this type of bike significantly increases the risk of serious injury. As well, there's a second recommendation that was made, which is to include a section prohibiting driving and/or reckless or dangerous or use that puts the safety of others at risk, regardless of the type of vehicle. That means that the section would cover all means of transportation, whether whether electric or not. We believe that no one should be allowed to use, for instance, a skateboard, a bicycle, or any other means of transportation in ways that could put the safety of others at risk in the park. So I think we've covered all the bases. And again, when you see a moped speeding through the pathways of a park where there's so many families who are gathering, it's an accident waiting to happen. So we put an end to it. And when the park's open in the spring, this is going to be a very welcome addition to our bylaws. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Cohen. So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Carried unanimously. And we move to the next item, which is 13, urban development and engineering. Okay, awarding of a contract for road resurfacing on Hudson and West Loop. Councillor Gajowski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the City of Côte Saint-Luc Council hereby awards a contract to Sharex Inc. for the resurfacing of Hudson and West Loop Avenues in accordance with the terms of tender number C-09-20C for a total amount of $1,191,484.31 plus applicable taxes. That furthermore, the city may consider an amount of 10% plus applicable taxes for any potential contingencies and extras, if required, that shall first be approved according to the city's procedures. That the described expenses shall be financed from the loan bylaw number 2541, previously approved by the Ministère des Affaires Municipales et de l'Habitation. That treasurer certificate number TC 21-0039, dated February 2nd, 2021, has been issued by the city treasurer, attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Moved by Councillor Gajowski, seconded by Councillor Torgman. Thank you. Any discussion?
There is indeed. I am pleased to be moving this resolution, as I would thank the residents of Hudson Avenue between Mackle and the CP tracks for their patience, as we're finally going to be rebuilding that street. If you want to get into the detail, I mean, I heard of the agenda, but we are going to be adding an asphalt speed bump on Hudson, a stop sign and crosswalk on Hudson, and the top section of Hudson towards Westminster will be turned one way. So you'll no longer be able to enter Hudson Avenue from the north portion of Westminster at the entrance to the CP rail yards. Councillor Early wants to speak to the West Loop portion of the contract that will be in his district. Feel free, but I think the residents of Hudson, thank you for your patience, and finally be rebuilding that street after a long wait.
Councillor Early.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, just to follow up on Councillor Kajowski's point, the residents of West Loop between Magnolia and Edinburgh as well have been quite patient. This, I hate to say it, has been the worst block, the worst stretch in the district. And I know it's one that was supposed to be done last year in 2020, but got delayed because of COVID. And it actually had been on the list the year before. So it's been sort of a few years in the making, but I'm looking forward to being done this summer. And the goal, of course, is to repave it. And at the same time, try to limit the inconvenience to the residents during the residents on the street during the process. But I'm happy that it'll be done this summer, and look forward to being repaved.
Actually, it should be noted the contract is supposed to be in the spring, actually, from the item. April, May, June works. Obviously, it'll begin after the spring thaw.
Councillor Berkeley.
Yeah, so am I on? Yeah, so I see here that the work includes a complete reconstruction of the street, including replacement of up to 35 lead pipes based on the results of the upcoming pneumatic tests. So this, in fact, would be our first street where we would be changing lead pipes to non-lead pipes. That's right, Councillor Early?
Yeah, and just if I may add, so once,
No?
I'm not sure, actually, I'm not sure
Well,
it's the first.
technically, Smart Avenue reconstruction was
I think
the
it's-
first last year, but I was the only one who.
Yeah, I think it's exactly. I think there's second and third.
Okay,
I was going to say, once we finalize the details, we'll share information with the residents, and that way they'll have the option. Once the excavation is going on, they'll have the option to do work on their section of the service line, should it be lead as well. And the city, we're going to hopefully reach out to some contractors and try to get a preferred pricing or bulk pricing if we can legally, so that residents have options to certain contractors to do the work with, to replace their side of the lead service line at the same time. And hopefully it'll be cheaper once the streets is excavated and once sections of the pipe are excavated. So more information will be coming to residents when we get a bit closer to the spring.
okay, thank you.
Councillor Italy made a good point there. This is the time to change your pipe if you do have a lead pipe.
Well, I
We'll be
actually
doing that
thought that
testing.
once we do this, that we were going to be asking residents to change their pipes. I didn't understand that it was just going to be an option. So I think that we're going to have a little bit of a discussion on that.
Well, we'll be giving them the option, but ideally they would change it out while the work is going on because there's.
No,
huge
I thought
savings.
that the position that we took as a council was that if we change our pipes, that there would be.
No, they have 10 years. They have a 10
Well, we haven't decided that yet, but here we are giving a contract to replace 35 lead pipes on a street. So I think that we should probably have that discussion sooner rather than later.
Agreed, but just to clarify, it is far cheaper to change your pipe while the street is excavated. There are savings to be had.
Okay,
So it's important residents understand that, residents of West Luke and Hudson for this year.
okay. Well, when is the work starting?
It says April, May,
Okay,
but I imagine once the.
so we
once
should
the
have an
thaw takes
update by
place.
then as to what the city's position is with regard to the responsibility of the private owners to change their pipes.
But
Yes.
what is clear is they will be having an obligation when we change our pipes to change theirs.
Well, yeah, but we haven't put that into law yet.
But that is the position of council and staff
Okay,
at this point, that it will be an obligation. The question is the delay, and of course we recommend they do it when the street's being excavated, but we know certain people might have some financial constraints, so we're going to be giving them a delay that we all agree upon that's reasonable, but it will be a requirement. Okay, moved and seconded, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. And now we move on to the next item, which is the sidewalk. Councillor Burko. Oh, Councillor Torchman.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. That the City of Côte Saint-Luc hereby declares Ventec Inc.'s bid non-conforming, therefore the bid is rejected. That pursuant to the term of tender number C-25-20-21C, the City Council hereby awards the contract to Kojalac Inc., the lowest bidder under the law, for up to a maximum of $407,721.48 plus applicable taxes. That further, the council may consider an amount up to 10% plus applicable taxes for any potential contingencies and extras if required. That shall first be approved according to the city's procedures. That the described expenses shall be financed as follows: $407,721.48 from loan bylaw 2521 and 2541, previously approved by the Ministère des Affaires Municipales et de l'Habitation for the public portion of the sidewalks, and up to $40,772.15 from the city's operational budget for the private portion of sidewalks. That the city treasurer has issued treasurer certificate number TC 21-0043 on January 28, 2021, attesting to the availability of funds to cover the above described expenses.
Moved by Councillor Torchman, seconded by Councillor, who would like to second it? Councillor Lee. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, This is going to cover about 1,500 square meters of sidewalks across the city. This is obviously not including the sidewalks that'll be changed as part of the road reconstruction in the previous resolution. The reason why it's split up into two sections, a public and a private, is sometimes residents choose to expand their driveways and they pay for the sidewalk portion. So that's why there's a portion that we're repairing for just upgrades and repairing broken sidewalks, and then a portion that's allocated to when residents do specific kinds of work.
Councilor Berku?
Like, I'm sorry, I don't see the full screen. Can I speak?
Sure.
Oh, okay, thank you. So I also just want to point out and underscore the good decision-making by our purchasing department and by engineering, because if we look at the results, they decided to go to tender in November and give the tender, we got the results now, and there's a range of, it goes from $400,000 to $700,000. So you see, we in the range of tenders, we really got the low end. But more importantly, if you compare it to previous years, our cost per square meter is now $231 per square meter, as opposed to the cost last year, which was $245, the year before $261. Granted, it was a major increase from $218, but still it was going in a certain direction, and now we're getting the benefit of a lower cost per square meter. So that is good. And again, it's a question of timing, and the purchasing and engineering, I think, chose their time well, and we are going to get the benefit of that, that management decision. Thank you.
Okay. So it's moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? It's carried unanimously. Okay, I just wanted to go back on the last issue because you seem to have questions about the procedure with the streets and lead. It's the position of staff and approved by council that when we do a street that has lead pipes, we will be changing our side. What remains is on the resident's side of their house. So if they decide to do it at the time that we're doing our street, it's cheaper, and we certainly are going to be recommending it. However, if they can't afford to do it, it does not destroy the work that we've done on our street because it's on their property. That's why if they can't afford it and they want to spend more money later and not do it when it's cheaper, then they'll be given a delay to do it, and we will not be destroying our streets because that is their land. And they are aware that they have other options if they can't afford it, such as putting in an osmosis filter system underneath their sink or using filtered water from the tap as an interim solution until they do their part of the work. The recommendation from staff right now is to give them a significant delay, and council has to debate and approve that delay. All right, now we'll move on to item number 14, Councilor Berku.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is urban planning, and the request, I'm going to ask Councillor Early, as it is our practice, to post the perspectives on the screen. So I'll read this one in French. Que le plan d'implantation et d'intégration architecturale montrant une extension arrière proposée ainsi qu'un changement de couleur pour le revêtement en aluminium complète pour une habitation unifamiliale isolée sur le lot du 5583 Borden est préparé par Fred Weiser, architecte, pour la réunion du comité consultatif d'urbanisme du 19 janvier 2021 soit approuvé aux conditions que les murs de fondation sur l'extension arrière n'aient pas visibles plus qu'un pied au-dessus du niveau du sol, conformément aux dispositions de l'article 4.6-6 ainsi que chapitre 14 du règlement 22-17 de la ville de Côte Saint-Luc. Proposé. I just wanted, is our director of urban planning on this at this meeting?
I don't believe so.
Oh, okay, fine. So that's the resolution.
No. Thank you. Okay, so moved by Councillor Berku, seconded by Councillor Kajowski. Any discussion? That's it? Okay, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. Now we move to 14.2 minor exemptions. Councillor Burku, 6700 The Avenue.
Right, so this is for the building on the avenue, which is across from the Cavendish Mall. Then it be it resolved that in accordance with the provisions of bylaw G18-0005, the request for a minor exemption regarding the property located at 6700 The Avenue be and is hereby approved. The whole is more fully delineated hereunder. The request in order to allow for an existing 6-story mixed dwelling building built in 2017 under permit number 17148 to be located at 24.74 feet from the front land line instead of the minimum required front setback of 25 feet. So it's really a couple of inches. The whole, notwithstanding the provisions of zoning bylaw 2217 Annex B, zone HM-6. So they built a few inches too close to the sidewalk. So we're giving them a minor exemption.
So moved by Councillor Burku and seconded by Councillor Cohen. Any other discussion on that? No?
No, just,
So all in favor? Carried unanimously, and we move to 6838 Corzat.
okay, so I just need the whereases here. I'm sorry. I need a moment to find the resolution. Okay, I have it in my email. I'll read it from my email. Okay, so be it resolved. Be it resolved that, hang on a second. Then in accordance with the provisions of bylaw G18-0005, the request for a minor exemption regarding the property located at 6838 Courjac be and is hereby approved. The whole is more amply delineated hereunder, but I will read the whereases before I finish the conclusion. Just give me one moment. I'll just read the whereases. So whereas the owner applied for and received a permit to reconstruct his driveway with an underground heating system. Prior to construction, a small existing retaining wall served as the required separation between the driveway and the walkway. Following the reconstruction, the contractor removed the retaining wall and built the driveway and walkway as one continuous surface, which was non-conforming to our bylaw. The owner has apparently explored options of building a small retaining wall or planter in its original location. However, the sensors for the heating system are in this exact location, as well as a city water valve, and would take considerable work and cost to relocate. So considering the foregoing, be it resolved that the request in order to allow for an existing driveway built in 2020 under permit number 18722 to be built contiguous to a private walkway instead of being separated by a strip of grass or a permanent structure such as a flower box of at least 2 feet 6 inches in width over at least 80% of the said driveway length be exempted, and the whole notwithstanding the provisions of zoning bylaw 2217 article 7-2-3I. So be it resolved. Thank you.
Okay,
You see the perspective of the final end product, and what happened was there was a very narrow walkway which was separated by a small retaining wall. But then when the pavers were installed and the heating elements were installed, there was a water valve which belonged to the city, which also had to be depressed. And considering all of that, and that the resident explained to us in quite some detail that it would in his view, it would put at jeopardy the heating system. So this is the reason why we're giving him the exemption.
okay, moved by Councillor Burku, seconded by Councillor Ben-Isri. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously with Councillor Torchman out of the room. Now we move on to the next item, which is the stance at the Aglo. Councillor Sabag, you've done that before. Would you do that again? It's the stance at the Aglo. If you're at the, whoever's at the right page, because I know we forgot to assign that one.
Off
So last-
mute. Let me just go off mute. That the council take the following stance in view of any agglomeration council meeting to be held in March 2021 as follows: to authorize the mayor and his duly authorized replacement to make any decisions he deems necessary and in the best interest of the city of Côte Saint-Luc and its residents regarding the items on the agenda of the agglomeration council meetings to be held in March 2021, based on the information to be presented during those meetings.
Moved by Councillor Sabag, seconded by Councillor Torgman. All in favor? Carried unanimously. And now we go to other business. Does anybody have something to add on to the agenda? This is for you or Mike or Dita.
Dita, do you have the resolution? Because I didn't get a copy. Dita, you're on mute.
You're on mute, Councillor Burko.
Still on mute.
It was shared with you by Jason.
Yes, but you made some modifications to
All
it.
right. Yes, I know. It
would
was shared after that. Okay.
I would be very comfortable, even though we worked on this together. If you want
Right. Okay. I'll read it.
and I'll second it. I'll
Okay.
second it, then we can have discussion.
Okay.
Just point of order, are we voting on adding an agenda item or?
Correct.
Yes, Councillor Torgman, I apologize. Yes, Mr. Mayor, I would like to propose that we add an item under new business regarding mail-in voting for the next election, please.
Okay, that's been moved by Councillor Cohen, seconded by Councillor Burko. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Councillor Torgman opposed. Okay. Any discussion? Go ahead, Councillor Torgman.
I just want to voice my opposition to bringing an item like this that's rushed, that we haven't had an opportunity to read properly. It was finished in the minutes after the meeting, the public meeting started. So I didn't have an opportunity to read the final draft. And if I didn't, I assume that most of this council didn't. So we're rushing a resolution. I don't oppose to the content of the resolution. I don't think that this is proper governance, and I think we should give it more thought and push it forward at the next public meeting. There is no rush.
Councillor Cohen.
Mr. Mayor, there actually is a rush. This is Côte Saint-Luc is a small cog in the wheel regarding this resolution. The Quebec Union of Municipalities is already moving forward with this. They've done so since December. They have Laval, Longueuil, they represent 85% of municipalities in Quebec, and they pretty got a lot of them on board already. Time is of the essence because the Quebec government must make major modifications to the Election Act in order to allow this to occur. And from what we understand, if we wait until the second Monday in March, it'll be too late. So I think we need to get behind this. Councillor Burko will read the draft resolution. This is something to me that is a no-brainer. The Canadian federal elections allow mail-in voting. We saw the United States, how most people did it by mail. We saw in British Columbia, they did it by mail. If there is a federal election during the pandemic, they have the option for people to mail it in. Right now, municipalities do not have that option. And I am not confident. Right now, the Prime Minister tells us that everyone's going to get their vaccine by the end of September. I'm not a believer based on what he's produced so far. I'm concerned. And I think that this could have an effect on all of us on terms of people going to the polls. So this is an opportunity for us to support the Union of Quebec Municipalities resolution. That's my commentary, and that's an answer to Councillor Torgman as to why we do need to do it tonight and not wait in a month. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Torgman.
Just a point of clarification. We're backing something that no one has read yet, and that's my opposition. This council hasn't actually read the resolution yet. We're backing a resolution from the UMQ that has only been published in the newspaper, but we haven't seen a copy of it yet. So again, to the content and to the subject at hand, I agree. We should be backing it, and we should be working together. I just think it would be wise to at least see what we're backing. I'd like to see the
Okay,
resolution.
so-
Maybe once we have this resolution read to us in public, I'll have a better idea as to what to vote.
Councilor Burku and then Councilor
Okay,
Kajewski.
so I did look, I don't know why you say the UMQ resolution. I didn't find a UMQ resolution. Okay, so there,
That's what I'm saying.
as far as I know, there isn't one. But what I do know is UMQ has been lobbying vocally, quite clearly for mail-in ballots. It was mentioned in, I know the Mayor of Saint Laurent has been doing it. It was mentioned 2-3 weeks ago in a Gazette article in La Presse, even yesterday again in the Gazette. So this has become a public, open discussion. And we know that the UMQ is going for it. Exactly how are they going to propose mail-in ballots? That's what we're going to be consulted. So we're asking, and we incorporated that ask, that we be consulted with regard to how the mail-in ballots are going to be, delivered. Are they going to be upon request or not upon request? I think there's a will on this council, a majority will, that it be upon request and it not be a blanket
Agreed.
everybody. So that was added to the resolution, which we discussed before we came into the public council meeting. And it was circulated, you're right, it was circulated late this afternoon, but we made modifications.
No.
And
We got it exactly 7 minutes before the meeting.
all right.
You had your chance to speak. If you want to speak again, I'll put you on the list of speakers. But next is Councilor Kajewski.
Yeah, so we received it at 7:30. I'm not quite sure.
You
if,
received it at 4.
Councilor Burku.
We received the final version 7:30, half an hour before the public meeting. I'm not sure if Councillor Torchman is somehow watching me in my basement office, but I did in fact read it. I can't speak for the rest of council, but don't really appreciate being told that I didn't read a resolution that I voted in favor of. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, then it's Councilor Erdely and Councilor Sabag and then Councilor Erdely, sorry.
So Councillor Burku is right. She did make last minute modification. I had a lot of hesitation and reluctance to vote yes on this because of the way it was kind of just brought to us. It's an important matter. I do think that yes, we should be able to give an opinion, but most of all, we have to make sure that the opinion that we give or whatever stance we take, and I appreciate Councillor Burku's modification literally last minute modifications to add the words that I requested, that this should not be kind of a blanketed mass mailing, but more of something that is requested and then mailed to the resident. As long as we have that, as long as we are ensured that this is the way we're going to move forward with it, then yes, I would vote for it. But I have a hard time seeing any councillors here saying that that is the way the UMQ is going to move forward with. Nobody knows what's going to be lobbied, what's going to be pushed forward. And so I have a lot of hesitation on this one.
Councillor Erdely and then Councillor Torchman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just going to speak on a point of order that really we should allow Councillor Burku to read the motion before we actually have the debate on the motion as per our protocol. And just to say, Councillor Torchman is correct that usually we do receive the motion in advance, but it's not unheard of for us to receive a motion just before. I think we should allow Councillor Burku to read the motion and then enter into the actual debate.
We'll have it seconded and we'll have all the debate. You'll be the first to speak, Councillor Torchman.
Sorry, just there was a point of clarification to something that was said. We received an email talking about the subject at 4 o'clock. We received a draft at 7:30, but I was in a council meeting discussing other points at that point. We only actually started addressing it at 7:57, exactly about 3 to 4 minutes before our public meeting. So I just want to clarify that it's important to be clear about what actually happened and not theories about what happened.
Okay.
I'm ready to hear the resolution that was drafted in the minutes prior to our public meeting.
Okay, so you will read it, and it'll be second, and there'll be discussion. I'd like to state my comments. I haven't until now, but I'll listen to the resolution. I do want to mention, though, that this has been discussed during the day. We gave a mandate for the resolution to be redrafted, because there was something that was sent to council earlier in the day, to be redrafted, and then we reviewed the redraft before the meeting, and now we're going to review it again. So go ahead and read it.
You're muted, Councillor Burku. We can't hear you.
He always likes to start that way.
It's hard to manipulate so many screens. I should have two screens like Councillor Erdely does. Okay. Whereas municipal elections are scheduled to be held in Quebec municipalities on November 7th, 2021, where it is highly unlikely that the COVID-19 pandemic will no longer, oh, wait, you're right. We've got to go to another one. Maybe, yeah, that whereas was definitely modified in committee, and I don't have that final modification. Whereas the population of Côte Saint-Luc is composed of a senior population of over 10,000 persons in protected and non-protected homes and settings who are at great risk of the effects of COVID-19. Whereas the Council of the City of Côte Saint-Luc wishes to ensure a safe electoral process and promote democracy with a maximum possible participation. Whereas in order to allow for mail-in ballots, the Quebec government must modify the applicable law pertaining to elections for all municipalities, whereas the Quebec Union of Municipalities representing 1,100 municipalities has already made such a request, whereas door-to-door campaigning and funding election workers could be very difficult during that time, whereas the United States of America and the province of British Columbia have already adopted the mail-in ballot process successfully. Be it resolved that the City of Côte Saint-Luc supports the efforts of the UMQ in requesting that the Quebec government modify the applicable law pertaining to elections, more specifically mail-in voting, in a timely manner in order to be adopted in time for the November 2021 general election, and that the Quebec government consult with the UMQ and concerned municipalities with regard to said changes, and in particular with regard to what did we say? The mail-in, hang on, because I'm not reading from the, I apologize for that. I do apologize.
The most important part, Dita.
I know, but I did change it. I did change it, but hang on. There we go.
Mail-in ballots by request.
Got it. That the Quebec government consult with the UMQ and concerned municipalities with regard to said changes, and in particular, mail-in voting by request, that they consult with us for that. And then the whereas that I mentioned before was whereas due to COVID-19, certain sanitary measures may still be required to be enforced in November 2021. So.
Okay. All right,
I can share it again.
Let's relax slowly. It's been moved by Councillor.
Okay, I can share it again. Because we have this ability to share, to go on screen.
Seconded by Councillor Cohen. Okay, now any discussion? I'll just start the discussion and then Councillor Torgeman will continue it. So we live in very interesting times, as we all know, and no one can predict the future or have a crystal ball. But what we do know is that 90% of the people in emergency and 90% of the deaths are individuals over the age of 65. What we do know is we have the largest percentage of seniors in the province, and we believe in democracy and giving them, if there's going to be an election, the right to vote. So all we're asking is to find a way, particularly for the most vulnerable members of our population, to be able to participate in the democratic process. And we're asking the UMQ to lobby the provincial government to create that process. And that is the essence of this resolution. We certainly do not control what the provincial government is going to do, what they're going to decide. We can only pass a resolution, as we always do as leaders and hope that other cities follow and that we have some influence to ensure that there is a fair and democratic process for all. Councillor Torchman.
Would you like me to share it to the screen? Mr.
You read it. Doesn't matter.
So anything we can do, absolutely anything we can do to increase participation in democracy and in elections, I will back and I will fight for. So I absolutely, I want to say that. I want to be very clear about it. I am also absolutely okay with mail-in voting. I don't, there's debate with one element of the resolution that the US and British Columbia did it successfully. Maybe that is something we can remove because that's questioned by many people. And I also want to ensure that we're not asking the UMQ to back a mail-in voting that everybody gets a mail-in ballot, whether you request it or not. I just want to ensure that that's very, very clear, that we're not asking for that. And that if the UMQ does, then we're going to pass a resolution opposing it.
I don't know if we're going to agree to that at this point because we don't know what they're going to be presenting. But all we want to do is ensure that there's a democratic process. And of course, we want a system that works. So we're going to have to see what the provincial government, if they do listen to the UMQ and to cities like ourselves making this request, what they come up with that is secure and that allows for the democratic process to move forward. But of course, we're not going to vote against anything that is foolproof, appears to be reasonable, and allows for the democratic process.
Can we remove the line about the British Columbia and?
The only person who didn't like the United States was Donald Trump, Councillor Torch.
Well, but that's a friendly amendment that's easy to remove. It's a whereas that we can easily remove.
Yeah, that doesn't matter. We can remove that. That's fine. Councillor Italy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to speak in favor of the motion. Councillor Torchman may be correct that this was a bit more rushed than normally we do things. However, I understand and I agree with Councillor Cohn's point of view that we want to make sure this gets to the government as quickly as possible because we want this to happen in November. We all know that things tend to move slowly at both the provincial and federal government level. So the goal of this motion is to try to push them a little bit. Just to share, we are a little bit behind, actually, I should say. I was going through some sites and saw that Montreal passed a similar resolution in October. So we're a little bit behind in that sense. But the goal is that Montreal and other cities throughout the province adopt these motions. The goal is to give residents more opportunities to vote, whether it be more days and not just having one day, having advance and more advanced polls so that it gives residents multiple days to vote, which is something that's been done in other elections, been done federal, provincial level as well, whether it's giving residents the option for mail-in voting, whatever we can do to allow more people the opportunity, because we know in general municipal elections, the turnout is relatively low. We want to make sure people have that opportunity and hopefully we'll seize that and vote when it comes to election day or by mail or another day if there's extra days, but whatever we can do to help the process, and hopefully the government will support us and the UMQ as well. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Italy. Anyone else? Councillor Benizri and then Councillor Cohen.
Oui, j'aimerais dire que c'est une autre façon, c'est sûr que comme il a été déjà mentionné, c'est une autre façon de permettre à nos résidents de voter. Le seul point que j'ai mentionné tout à l'heure et que j'aimerais encore rementionner une fois, c'est que vraiment le vote par courrier soit vraiment sécuritaire, qu'on s'assure vraiment de l'identité du voteur. Je pense que c'est important qu'on mette le point là-dessus pour ne pas qu'on ait de problème durant la journée de vote. Voilà. Merci.
Councillor Cohen, I did want to mention that our city clerk, Jason Breveau, explained to us the procedure that does exist now already. Under certain circumstances, individuals are allowed to use mail-in voting. If they're, in a particular residence, they can't go out. There's particular rules, and all those mail-in votes have to have photocopies of identity to show that the individual who is sending in the vote is the individual that is actually casting their vote. So I'm sure that the province would continue in a similar fashion. Councillor Cohen?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this is not in the resolution, but Mayor Gibson from Kirkland was in the Gazette a few days ago, and he had a few people backing him, indicating that if the government does not agree to this, then perhaps they should consider delaying the actual election. I just wanted you to know that there is also such kind of a movement afoot by some municipal mayors in terms of not having the election next November. You know, I remember last March when we started meeting by Zoom, and we all figured, you know, by June or July, everything's going to be normal. We're all going to be back and doing everything we want. And now here we are, almost 1 year later, and we're not out of this by a long shot. And we're all waiting for a vaccine that the Prime Minister promises us is going to happen, that the Quebec government is, in my opinion, is mishandling with not even giving people their booster shots, which could make their vaccine useless. I don't have any confidence in our leaders right now that by next November, we're going to be out of this. I don't want to sound like the voice of doom, but I really am concerned. Just like in March, people, if I would have told any of you last March that we'd be in the same boat or worse 12 months later, you'd think I was crazy. So November is not that far off. So we don't want to have people afraid to leave their house, afraid to go to a polling station, afraid to work in the polling station, afraid to be scrutineers, and so on and so forth. So, it's a small price for the government to do. But again, the government needs to take this seriously, because if there was a provincial election next October, and there is in 2 years, you could bet that they'd be doing something different. But it doesn't impact them, because I assume by October 2022, this will be over, I assume. But it's not going to be over by next fall, I'm afraid to tell you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cohen. So it's been moved and seconded. We passed it. All in favor? Anyone opposed? No one's opposed, so it did pass. Okay, very good. That was an interesting debate.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, it's with the friendly amendment. It's passed.
Yes, the friendly amendment.
With the friendly amendment, we removed all references to the United States.
Or any other.
And British Columbia.
And British Columbia.
Right. We're just want our government to do it well and do it right. Okay. So great. So that was that. Is there anything else? All right. So that's it for other business. Now we move to second question period. Maître Prévost, are there any questions?
Yes, we have one question, and again, this is questions pertaining to the agenda. The question is from Marissa Seidel. Why is the city getting involved in provincial health matters? Don't we have an MLA? Isn't there enough work for the city to do without overstepping into provincial matters?
Well, first of all, yes, we do have a member of the National Assembly, David Birnbaum, who's I work very closely with. In fact, on the issues that are most important to us right now, such as having vaccination sites. David Birnbaum has been speaking at the meetings on Monday with the Minister Rouleau, speaking with Dr. Rosenberg, as well as our issues with respect to anything of a provincial nature. However, as everybody well knows, we were the first in Canada to mandate masks. We didn't wait for the provincial government, federal government, some other government to do the right thing. We were the first, and it followed. And right now, it is our obligation to protect our residents, and we have the highest percentage of seniors who are the most vulnerable. As we know from this virus, we've learned a lot over the last year, and we need to keep doing what's necessary in order to protect them, particularly if this other variant becomes widespread in the province. And if we're not going to be proactive then and wait for some other level of government to do it, then we're not being responsible to our residents. So the city of Côte Saint-Luc, with this council, will continue to be the most proactive of all cities in ensuring that we do whatever we can to protect our residents from COVID-19. Any other questions?
Yes, we have another question from Allison Weinberger. I'm very pleased to see the city adopting a bylaw to prohibit the use of electric mopeds in parks. This is a big safety issue in Kerwin. My question is, how will this bylaw be enforced?
Okay. As all our bylaws are supposed to be enforced by our public safety officers, and the police department are also given knowledge of our bylaws so that they can enforce them. And together we work as a team. So if people notice that there is a moped that's going through the park, they can always call for our public security to come by and deal with the situation. And it gives us certain rights in the bylaw. I don't have the bylaw in front of me. Maitre Provost, do you know what the sanctions are in the bylaw?
I don't have the bylaw in front of me right now, but it is a question that I could definitely look into.
If you can get that information to the residents, that would be appreciated.
And I'll just add, Mr. Mayor, this is a article in our bylaw that deals with nuisance. So it's part of the general nuisance bylaw. So your answer to the resident was 100% correct in terms of enforcement. And we'll look at the exact fine in bylaw 24/7.
Thank you. Any other? Oh, Councilor Kajowski.
Are we considering any additional signage in parks to highlight the bylaw of no mopeds in the parks?
We certainly are. It's a very good idea.
Okay.
Are there any other
Thank you,
questions?
Mr. Schechter.
No, we don't have any other questions.
Okay. So if there are no other questions, I'll call for adjournment. A motion for adjournment by Councilor.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Sabak, seconded by Councilor Ben-Isri. All in favor? We are adjourned. Have a very pleasant evening, and I'll see the rest of you back and in committee. Thank you.